Bombshell revelations into Metro North after a Journal News investigation reveals track workers are collecting hundreds of thousands of dollars in overtime.
A lot of work went into the rails, and that meant a lot of overtime for track workers, which has continued to this day. And They had spotted it the week before.
Yes. Tom Zambito, part of a team tracking down overtime payments for Metro North track workers ever since the Bridgeport train derailment and crash 5 years ago. The major train accident injuring 65 of the 250 passengers on board. 12 passengers were seriously injured.
We are in the midst of a long-term, ongoing project to replace an ancient catenary system.
Governor Dan Malloy addressing reporters just 24 hours after the derailment in May of 2013 as he explained the major construction project occurring on the line in the weeks before the crash. An NTSB investigation determining broken joint bars along a main track was responsible for the derailment and subsequent train crash. It led to major restructuring of the aging New Haven Line railroad tracks.
There was a lot of neglect. It wasn't just the derailment in Bridgeport, there were a number of other accidents.
After the crash, tens of thousands of splintered rail ties were torn out and miles of aging track has been removed. The major restructuring project, which is ongoing to this very day, leading to an unprecedented spike in overtime hours for track workers. In fact, through Freedom of Information requests gathered by the Journal News, documents reveal the overtime hours skyrocketed from 204,000 hours in 2012 to 600,000 overtime hours just last year. To give insight and perspective as to exactly how much money track workers along the New Haven line were making, out of the 4,000 employees that work on the tracks here, we found 9 employees that made over $1 million just in 2017 alone. The investigation also revealed in 2017, 63 track workers earned more in overtime than their normal salary pay, and 23 track workers made over $200,000 in annual salary and overtime pay.
Just ridiculous. I mean, it's like I said, it's just going straight to their pockets.
Safety's number one priority, so sometimes that cost is justified, but it does seem that it might definitely be excessive.
Metro North says $22 million was budgeted in overtime pay just for track workers in 2017 and says the overtime for track workers is completely justified.
Metro North has sort of defended this, saying that overtime it's money that's going to be spent anyway. If it goes to one worker or another worker, it doesn't really matter. It's money that has to be spent.
However, Zambito says the agency's spending could be more controlled, and part of the exorbitant overtime pay for track workers is based on no federal mandated hours of service rules, allowing workers to log endless overtime. The investigation also revealing hundreds of track worker job vacancies, leading to record-breaking logged hours of overtime. And the overtime will have long-term impacts on the agency's budget for years to come because of pensions paid to those track workers.
The amount of money they're making now will factor into their pensions for decades to come. And that's money that all comes out of fares and comes out of the MTA budget.
The transit agency says it has reduced the number of vacancies for track workers to help reduce overtime costs. But with the timeline of restructuring for the New Haven line predicted to last another decade, many are wondering what the ultimate cost of safety on the rails will be. Ray Mundy, FiOS 1 News.